Manual rewinds. To most of us, they can be a mystery. But I'm going to show you in this video that with a little bit of hand tools, simple hand tools, and a little bit of effort, you can replace the rope yourself. Check it out. Alright guys, so as you can tell, the rope on this thing is pretty sad. And a little bit of a background as to where this one comes from. You've probably seen it before. It's our Project Bessie that I'm doing with my daughter. It's from a Moto 4, so this is a Yamaha recoil. This would also be the same as a Big Bear recoil, or for the most part, as far as I remember, any single cylinder 80s to 90s Yamahas. But this video will also give you the basics of how to do a recoil on a snowblower, on your lawnmower, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the differences are, and I'm going to try and do this whole video without too much editing because I want to show you that it's really not that difficult. So first thing I want to point out is this one here does not have a spot where you see the knot. So the knot is kind of hidden behind the spool on this one. If you can see the knot, you're in good shape. It actually makes it way more easy. And before we go too far, I should also point out that in this video, as you can tell, the recoil already works. I'm not rebuilding anything. I'm not taking apart the spring or any of that. That's a whole other video on its own. So this is just simply replacing the rope if your recoil is already working. So in my case, I don't see the knot, so I can't simply do it. So I need to release the pressure on the spring, and the only way you can do that, unfortunately, is to cut the rope. It's broken anyways. So with my scissors or my side cutters, I'm just going to give the rope a slice. I'm going to keep the handle off the side. And if you guys are familiar with Yamahas, you're probably thinking, well, why does Rick have a snowmobile handle on a Yamaha? If you've ever tried to pull one of those older bikes over without a decompressor, it's really it's hard if you only have a T-handle. So kind of a little hack. So now I'm going to really slowly and gently release the pressure. So I'm holding with my thumbs the spool, and I recommend wearing gloves if you've never done this before because it could go really quickly. So once the pressure is all released, so there's no more pressure on there, as you can tell, I'm going to remove the center holding bolt. Sometimes it's a screw, sometimes it's just a nut. There we go. Put that aside. And then gently we're going to pull the cap off. Now, I expect that this is good. Yeah, I expect it's going to be pretty dirty in here. So we're going to clean all this up. But slowly again, you don't want to lose the pawl here. Some people call it a dog's, but you don't want to lose this. This is also being held with a spring, so keep that in mind. Pull straight up on the spool, and if you have any resistance whatsoever, if it doesn't want to come straight out, don't pull too hard because, well, that's pretty nasty too. Because if it doesn't want to release, you're pulling up on this spring right here, and you don't want to pull this out, because if you do, you're going to have a world of hurt trying to rewind that. Not to mention you could get cut because they are kind of sharp. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy because guess what? It's probably going to get really dirty again in a short amount of time. And again, I'm trying to do this all in one shot so that you guys can see how simple this is. So just a quick little wipe down is all I'm going to do for today. And at a later date, I may revisit this, or maybe I'll get my daughter to do it so she can learn firsthand. So once this is all clean, what you can also do is you can give the spring a little bit of engine oil, something light, just to keep it from rusting and to keep it from binding on itself. It'll help the recoil kind of come back easily. So now at this point, I'm just going to remove this rope and pull pull it through. So my knot is held into this cavity over here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the old one out. So that goes in the garbage. And I'm going to take my new rope and I'm going to make a knot at one end. Make sure you make a good one and give yourself enough tail so that it doesn't slip through. So just like that. Now it's kind of handy because these already come already burnt, but they're not at a point, so I may have to address that. So let's see if it wants to kind of help me out here. So it does. Replace that just like that, goes in. And if you can, if you have a little bit of a tail here, try and tuck it in to the bottom so that it doesn't interfere with any of the mechanism. Just like that. Now at this point you're going to replace the spring, or sorry, the spool right back onto the spring. And before, again, I go too far, I want to point out that there's a notch over here. And in a second you're going to know exactly what that's for. The cap goes back on, as well as the nut. You can tighten this down. Now, the direction, that's kind of important. So if we were to go around this spool, if we were pretending that we're pulling on this rope, we're going to turn the spool in this orientation. So in this case, it's clockwise. So that's the way we're going to go. So I'm going to turn the spool clockwise until I reach the notch, and that's where the notch kind of becomes handy. And then you just slowly wind the recoil or rewind. See, some people interchange that word all the time, and that's okay. So keep winding it up. Now, how many turns? Well, that depends. What I'll normally do is I'll go until I just cannot physically turn it any longer, and I'll usually let it go around at least one rotation, maybe even two, until it lines up with the hole where the handle sits. So I'm getting pretty close there, I think. And this rope may become twisted as you come along, so try to keep it from doing that. You only need enough pressure on this spring, so see, that's pretty well the end of it. So I'm going to go back one rotation. And again, this is real time, guys, so I may be struggling a little bit. There you go. So that's one rotation. Now, you've got your recoil here, and you're holding it with your thumbs or your fingers or whatever. Another hack that I've seen people do, depending on how the spool is made, you can use a pair of locking pliers against the side so that you don't have to hold it with your thumbs all the time, and you don't get tired that way. So now we're going to put the rope right back through here, and then we're going to slowly let it go. We're holding it here, of course. We're going to see how it works. And it seems to be working just fine. And as you can tell, right here, my pawl is opening as soon as I pull on that rope. We want that to happen, of course, because if it didn't, we'd have to go back in and see what we've done wrong. But we're in a good shape here. And then, of course, you would finish it off by installing your handle. But because I won't be doing that, because I really want to do a nice cleaning here, I'm just going to put a knot on the end of this so that Gabby can go ahead and do this exactly just like I did, so that she can learn. And there you have it, guys. That is how you do a recoil on a Yamaha. But again, if you had the spool where you could see the knot on the outside, you wouldn't even have to take it apart. Thank you for watching the video. obviously to the end. And if you guys want to see how to rewind a spring, or if you want to see what the other procedures are if you end up having a recoil you have an issue with, send me an email, give me some pictures, let me know what you want to see, comments down below, and of course guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.